over the past few months, we have been eating primarily from the produce we have grown and raised on our 42 acres here in central Victoria. So come along with me today as I show you some of the snacks and meals that I have cooked from our garden produce to fuel us through the days and to put in the freezer for a later date. So back in May, I was still ripening all the rest of the tomatoes that my sister and my mother had harvested while we were away, and they slowly ripened on this windowsill. There were so many of them. I used them in so many dishes over the next few months, and this was one vegetable stew that I made that was pretty much completely from vegetables that we grew in our garden, and some bone broth that I made from our lamb that we raised here. So the only thing that wasn't from our garden was the onion and the celery, and of course salt and pepper as well. So we're fully into the fire season now. We are using our wood fire oven every day because there is not enough sunshine to support using the electric stove and the electric oven. So I start most of my dishes with chopping up onion and garlic, celery, and the carrots. These carrots are the red chutney carrots. They are so delicious, and I enjoyed using the rest of the harvest in this dish here. So I fry up all of these vegetables first, and if I'm not using onion, I'll use spring onions the same way as I do regular brown onions. Here I am taking the fat off the bone broth that I have made. So I'm going to use this fat later on. I'm going to use it in roast veggies or just as a supplement to olive oil. We use it occasionally and it's great. It has lots of flavour in it, but I don't want to add it all into this stew. However, I do want to add both of these containers of the bone broth for nutrition. So I'm adding in the potatoes. We grew a huge amount of potatoes, and with the potatoes I'm putting in the bone broth, and it just slowly melts down as everything cooks. I'm adding in zucchini, so I've got lots of frozen chopped zucchini. So I just chopped up the zucchini and put it straight into Ziploc bags. And now I'm adding some of the fresh tomatoes that have ripened on the windowsill. And tomato paste. Oh, tomato paste is another thing that I didn't make and I didn't grow, but I do make tomato paste from time to time. This year was not one of those years that I had time to make it. And here we have vegetable stock that I did make, and I'm using the rest of this container. So I've added a bit of water to it to get it all out. And I'm adding salt and pepper. I'm going to add this fresh thyme. Our thyme has been wonderful of late, but it's just starting to turn now. It's getting a bit too cold. And now I'm putting a triangle underneath the pot. So this is something that you need to use with a wood fire oven because that radiant heat is so hot, it will stick and burn on the bottom if we don't put the triangle underneath. And here I'm adding some fresh parsley and the kale at the end once we've cooked it for a couple of hours. And the dogs are absolutely loving sitting right near the fire. Jackie was a bit too close to the fire this time, but yeah, she's okay. She's just lying down next to it in bliss. And here's the meal all ready for dinner that night. We thoroughly enjoyed this. Another day I made a fried rice. So I made it from all of these frozen veggies that I grew. So broccoli, carrot, and spring onions. And then I added egg and rice, and I did add in some prawns as well. It's only the beginning of winter, but we've already seen some hardships with our solar system. Being off-grid can be the most difficult during wintertime, and particularly during this dark and wet period we're having right now. I'm so glad to have the backup system of the BLUETTI Fridge Power Unit. We've already been able to utilize this system to protect the contents of our fridge and freezer. By plugging it into our fridge, we have days of power when the power does go out, and our food won't go to waste. BLUETTI's Fridge Power Unit is so well thought out. It's slim and simple and easy to install and run. It's a really well-built backup system, and it kicks in as soon as the power goes out. And when the power comes back on, it switches to charging and then is just standing by until the next power outage comes along. This is a new system for BLUETTI. They have some really good deals with the core unit and then the backup batteries with the Kickstarter that they were running. This Kickstarter project has now been successfully funded, but you can still do a late pledge for available rewards and save on this unit. To me, this system pays for itself by saving us hundreds of dollars worth of food in our fridge freezer we have in our house here. And if we were to plug this system into our deep freezers, we would be protecting thousands of dollars of food. It's a particularly wonderful system to have when we go away. We can have peace of mind knowing that our food will be safe. If you would like to look at the fridge power system closer and make some savings on this unit, then please do check out the link below in the description box. Lunches are something that I absolutely love throwing together. I love having leftovers and putting all sorts of things together. This is a leftover of that stew, but I've put it on top of a bed of lettuce from the garden, and I've thrown on some fresh tomato with some olives. It's so yummy. And here I have a quinoa salad that I made up. I threw in some pickled zucchini into this one with some beans, and I ate it with some homemade beetroot dip, which I absolutely love. I have it in the freezer and I take a container out every now and then. I've put some coriander on top as well with the feta cheese. The coriander is really, really nice right now. And eggs are a fantastic source of protein for the lunch, so I just whack one on next to it. Unfortunately, our chickens aren't laying enough eggs at the moment, so we are relying on buying some from local growers. Here's the next day where I put some roast veggies with it. So these are roast potatoes, but the same salad that I made the day before. I love making big amounts of salads and having them over a few days. And then the next day I'm having the same thing, but I've got a can of tuna on top and then tomato and some pickled cucumbers and some pickled zucchini as well. And then the next day we had frittatas that night before, and then I've just added some salad and some roast veg and the beautiful beetroot dip on top. It is so bright and happy. And then the following day, I've made another batch of quinoa, and then I've added some roast veggies, some feta and some sauerkraut with the beetroot dip. I think there's also some pickled zucchini on there as well. And then I have topped it off with some toasted sunflower seeds. The next day, pretty much the same thing, except I've thrown in a whole heap of homegrown lettuce. I've been having lettuce almost every day for lunch. And here's another dish similar to the tuna one I had not that long ago with some cherry tomatoes. I was really making the most of those cherry tomatoes before they disappeared. And here's another stew that I made. This was a bean chili. And then I've done some roast potatoes next to it. We would have had this for dinner the night before, and then I've heated it up that day for lunch. Here we have the biggest pumpkin I grew this year. It is absolutely amazing. And with this pumpkin, I planned to make pumpkin puree so I could use the puree in scones, and I made some ginger and pumpkin soup, and I made a huge batch of that soup to put in the freezer for the winter months. The pumpkin was starting to go a bit at the stem, so unfortunately this stem was quite longer than it was, but I accidentally snapped it, so they won't last very long if they don't dry with that long stem, and I have a few of these to use up over the next week or two. So here's the puree. I basically just steamed the pumpkin until it was nice and soft. And here is the batter for the scones. So I've just whipped up a batch in the Thermomix, and these went down very, very well with my kids and my husband. They were really delicious. So delicious that I made 3 batches of these scones. So they turned out really, really yummy and delicious. I put a pumpkin spice in with these, so they were really scrummy. And we had them with the pumpkin and ginger soup. This pumpkin soup had potatoes in it as well, which is a great way to use the potatoes that we have in our drying cupboard. And here I have some tinned apple. So I'm using this as a substitute for bananas. So I don't have any bananas, but I do have lots of stewed apple and cooked apple in bottles. And I made some breakfast muffins with the apple and lots of seeds and goodness in this mix. I also put my green powder in here. So my powder that I make from the green leaves of brassica plants. So I'll have cabbage leaves in there, cauliflower and broccoli leaves in that green powder. So these muffins turned out really lovely, and I have actually put a whole heap into the freezer, which is fantastic because we need little snacks here and there that the kids can just pull out one by one. So I pop them into this Ziploc bag and they are safe and sound in the freezer until we need them. Thank you for spending this little pocket of time with me. I hope your garden is thriving and that you're able to make some snacks and meals from what you've grown. And if you aren't yet, if you're just starting on the journey, I hope that that day of happiness comes when you do finally get to harvest something and eat it. There is nothing like eating from the garden. Make sure to comment down below and let me know what produce you have in your garden that you've been cooking with recently. Thanks again for watching, friends. I'll see you in my next video.